You're approaching a lone floating island. Upon landing, you and your sidekick, Tails the Fox, begin searching for your arch-nemesis, Dr. Ivo Robotnik, and his crashed battleship, the Death Egg. In your search, you encounter a red short-beaked echidna with green socks and red shoes with yellow stripes. This is Knuckles, the last of the echidnas, a tribe indigenous to the island you're on, making him Angel Island's sole protector, along with its primary source of power, the Master Emerald. Knuckles stands as an obstacle between you and the Doctor because he believes you to be after the Emerald for your own gain. Ironically, he's been convinced of this by Robotnik, who is after the Emerald for his own gain. He only realizes this when the Doctor takes off with the Emerald he used to power the aforementioned Death Egg. It's now up to you, Tails and Knuckles, to track down the Master Emerald and bring it back to his island. This is a loose summary of the plot of the 1994 two-part Sega Genesis platformer Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Hi, my art historical methods and theories professor titled me an honorary art historian, and here's what everything I just told you has to do with post-colonial theory. In order to do this analysis properly, it's probably worth going way back to the very beginning. Video game developer Sega Corporation was looking to create a new mascot to compete with rival developer Nintendo's new flagship franchise, Super Mario Bros. You needed a character who'd appeal to audiences in the United States, a character with simple but distinct geometry and colors, so not only would the characters stand out and be instantly recognizable, but they would be easy and fun for children to draw. So character designer Naoto Oshima sketched several ideas for characters and brought them with him to New York City and showed them to passerby in Central Park. Oshima provided several ideas, including a dog, an armadillo, and a pajama-clad man with a large fluffy mustache who would later be retooled to become the game's antagonist. But the most popular design among these wound up being a blue hedgehog with white gloves and socks and red shoes. As for the story, a handful of drafts were passed around. Sega of America proposed what would become known as the Sonic Bible, which tells the story of a young hedgehog raised in Hartley, Nebraska, who seeks to help a neutrobiologist named Dr. Ovi Quintobor gather 7 emeralds imbued with all of humanity's worst aspects and impulses in order to reverse the effects of pollution and return Earth to its original pristine state. These emeralds, however, are corrupted by radiation and change the Doctor, both physically and mentally, turning him from the passionate and kind-hearted neutrobiologist, Ovi Quintobor, to the greedy and arrogant mad scientist, Dr. Ivo Robotnik, who seeks to turn Sonic and all of his animal friends into a robot army known as the Badniks. Not all of this transfers over to the final game, but if we were to look at, say, the official player's guide to Sonic the Hedgehog 1 and 2, you'd see that enough carried over for us to work with. Welcome to Mobius. That's my planet. It's a real nice place. Well, it was until Dr. Ivo Robotnik came along, imprisoned all my friends, and spoiled it all. Come along with me and help me send Robotnik and all of his evil sidekicks back where they came from. This plot isn't told explicitly in the gameplay, but looking at your surroundings, a story can be pieced together. The games all start in a colorful, energetic forest setting with green grass, tall trees, and lively animals bouncing around with happy expressions on their faces. As you progress through the levels, though, your surroundings begin to look more and more mechanical and man-made, implying the Doctor's grip on Sonic and Tails' home tightening as his Badnik army expands. This page in the manual also shows us a kind of ugly drawing of the design we would come to see in the final game for the Doctor. A round man with a familiarly large fluffy mustache, a red shirt with a yellow collar, and black pants with white buttons. Similarly to Sonic, Robotnik's design utilizes simple, defined geometry and bright colors to create a character easy for children to draw, while being instantly recognizable. The design prominently features red to contrast Sonic's blue, though both designs use all 3 of the triadic primary colors on the traditional color wheel, thus creating unity between the protagonist and antagonist. This primary color theme continues when Sonic's new sidekick, Tails the Fox, is introduced in the sequel in 1992, with his yellow body and red shoes similar to Sonic's. and of course Knuckles the Echidna in the official third installment released in '94 with his red body and shoes with yellow stripes. When the three of these characters come together to make what would be known as Team Sonic, there's yet another example of this primary color theme when you notice the three animals' respective colors. Sonic is blue, Tails is yellow, and Knuckles is red. I swear to God this is all relevant. The choice to make Knuckles and his respective tribe echidnas is an interesting one. Native to Australia, a continent and country that in itself is no stranger to colonization, we'll get to that, Knuckles' real-life counterparts are actually doing fine. Their conservation status is least concern, meaning, well, non-endangered, basically. However, that doesn't mean there aren't other ways we can compare the Echidna tribe in the Sonic universe to real-life echidnas. Echidnas belong to the monotreme family, meaning they have the fairly unique trait of laying eggs despite being mammals. This means, despite what that lying prick Dan Povenmire taught me in first grade, platypi are not the only ones. What next? You're gonna tell me that summer vacation isn't actually 104 days long? What the fuck? Seeing the echidna and platypus are the only surviving species belonging to the monotreme family, this makes them the last surviving members of the oldest existing branch of Mammalia, diverging from marsupials and placentals something to the tune of 112.5 million years ago. Aha! There's the parallel we're looking for. Knuckles is the last of his kind, much like how the echidna and platypus, as species, are the last of their kind in relation to their monotreme lineage. And much like the monotreme family, Knuckles and his presence on the island points to a much deeper history, as does the Master Emerald that he strives to protect. There seems to be a lot of kerfuffle around this emerald, doesn't there? So why would this story choose to center itself so heavily around an emerald specifically? Why not some other precious gem, like a diamond or a ruby? Those tend to be more commonly depicted as coveted and valuable, at least in Western media. Well, the emerald is a symbol that appears surprisingly frequently throughout mythology in various cultures. Legend has it that before he fell from heaven, Lucifer possessed the first emerald ever created, wearing it in his crown. When he descends to hell, however, the emerald doesn't follow him, but instead falls to Earth, where it's believed the same stone would be placed in the famed emerald scepter carried by Prester John, who some believe to be the protector of the Holy Grail. In fact, some interpretations of the myth insinuate that the emerald scepter is the Holy Grail. While a diamond or ruby's value is seen largely as monetary, the emerald is viewed more as a source of divine power. Many cultures throughout history believed the emeralds to have healing properties. Greek and Roman physicians believed they could cure inflammation and speed up the process of childbirth. These divine, powerful gems have caused humans to tear apart the world around them just for small pieces. Emerald mines in Colombia stretch over 100 kilometers across the country, contributing not only to worker exploitation, but deforestation, river sedimentation, and geological erosion. These problems were only made worse when the conquistadors found these mines and began smuggling emeralds to other countries for nobles and aristocrats to wear around and flaunt their wealth and power. What was once a material thought to have divine, mystical abilities was now little more than a product and a status symbol. Say, an army driven largely by power and money, typically associated with the colors red and yellow, invading someone else's home in search of an emerald thought to be imbued with divine power only to use it for their own gain? Sounds familiar, doesn't it? Why, yes, I am implying that Dr. Robotnik and his robot army are an allegory for the Spanish Inquisition. Is that intentional? Probably not. I don't know, Yuji Naka. It's my video. What are you gonna do? Leave a mean comment? Give me negative feedback if you're one of my classmates? Thank you. I appreciate it. Constructive criticism is always welcome as it helps me improve as an artist and academic. So it's finally time to link all of this with post-colonial theory, meaning analyzing everything I've talked about in this video through the lens of the ongoing effects of historical colonialism. Admittedly, post-colonial is a bit of a flawed term, because colonization is still kind of happening, but what even is colonialism, right? Historian Archibald Patton Thornton, in the autumn 1962 issue of the International Journal, cites both the Webster's Dictionary definition of colonialism, the system in which a country maintains the foreign colonies for their economic exploitation, and the Soviet Dictionary of Foreign Words definition of kolonizatsiya, the Russian word for both colonization and colonialism. The seizure of a country or region by imperialists, accompanied by the subjection, brutal exploitation, and sometimes annihilation of the local population. If we wanted to connect the story of Sonic 3 and Knuckles to real-life colonialism, we could stop there. When Dr. Robotnik crash lands on Angel Island, he's coming directly from Sonic and Tails' home, which he's already ravaged in search for the Chaos Emeralds as well as animals to capture and use to power his badniks. Once he gets to the island, he tricks its only resident into helping him steal the main source of power keeping the island afloat just so he can use it to power his own machines, leaving the island without its only source of power and Knuckles without the only artifact remaining of his tribe. An emerald, a symbol of opulence, divine power, and healing no less. Not to mention all the destruction he causes trying to stop you, Sonic, and Tails from getting between him and the emerald. In the first level, Angel Island Zone, he sets the island on fire. In Marble Garden Zone, he drills into the earth, tearing the land apart in an attempt to crush Sonic and Tails under dirt and debris. The evidence is all there, Your Honor. Dr. Robotnik is a colonizer. But what about, everything else? Well, keep watching, I'm getting to it. I previously mentioned the history of colonization in Australia, the real-life home of the short beat echidna. In the late 18th century, the British Empire started using Sydney, Australia as a penal colony, where they would send convicts sentenced to exile from the country, viewing it as quote-unquote empty land. What, there were people already living there before a bunch of rich white people started dumping everyone they didn't like there? Nah, they don't count. This is ours now. God save the Queen. The first governor of this new penal colony, Arthur Phillip, did initially try to make nice with the Aboriginal people that the British evidently viewed more as wildlife to the island than they did the rightful owners of the land they were now setting up shop on. But once the Brits' so-called domain expanded and ate up more of the land, making it clear that these guys weren't going anywhere, that civility dissipated, resulting in violent conflict. When Sonic first lands on Angel Island, Knuckles and Robotnik have already met, and are even collaborating, because Robotnik has convinced Knuckles that he comes in peace, and they're on the same side. This illusion breaks when Robotnik shows his hand by taking seemingly Knuckles' only possession, to use for his own power-hungry agenda. Okay, we're almost done, I promise. Earlier I brought up the philosophy behind Sonic, Tails, Knuckles, and Dr. Robotnik's respective designs, and how they were connected by their use of geometry to create simplistic but instantly recognizable designs, and an apparent theme of red, yellow, and blue, the primary colors on a traditional color wheel. A connection can be drawn between the four characters by the three protagonists' respective colors, Sonic's blue, Tails' yellow, and Knuckles' red, and Robotnik's design featuring all three of those colors, red torso, yellow collar, blue glasses. What does this all have to do with post-colonialism? Well, why don't we ask our old buddy Mr. A.P. Thornton? You remember him, right? From the International Journal article? Well, we're circling back to that. Charge breeds countercharge. If imperialism is to be defined as the last phase of capitalism, may we not also retort that communism is the first phase of imperialism? Of course we may, and normally do, but rushing to man these barricades, although it may relieve outraged feelings, cannot alter the situation. The main point is that, by the common consent of world opinion, imperialism has been classified as immoral. And in this, the lead has long been given by the Americans, who themselves, the product of a colonial rebellion, could never consistently have thought it anything else. For throughout history, the essence of empire is control. In all empires, there have been the controllers and the controlled, instantly definable. That's a lot of words, I know, but try and hear me out. My takeaway from Thornton's writing is that despite any political and or ideological difference between countries, it's generally agreed upon that colonialism and imperialism are generally bad things. But most, if not all, countries have in some way been affected by it. While Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles are all different species, and while not much is explicitly told us about them, it can be inferred that they all come from different backgrounds, they wind up finding common ground and teaming up against the true enemy, the greedy, power-hungry Ivo Robotnik. The three primary colors found in Team Sonic, all being featured on Robotnik's design, could symbolize this connection. They may initially have their differences and butt heads, but they come together when they realize they've simply been distracted by their common enemy. So, here we are. You made it to the conclusion. Dr. Robotnik is a colonizer. There's probably more here I could touch on, but I'm trying to keep this video within 20 minutes, and I'm already not great at sticking to the point. The Sonic franchise has always been, first and foremost, about the importance of friendship. Sonic may be the main character, but he wouldn't be able to defeat Robotnik by himself. He has Tails by his side the whole time, of course, but he also needs the help of Knuckles. When the two of them butt heads and get into fights, they're distracted, allowing Robotnik to make moves behind their backs, taking what he came for and leaving them in the dust. It's only when they work together that the Master Emerald can be saved. and Robotnik can be driven off of Angel Island. With all this in mind, the story can also be read as one about the importance of solidarity in the efforts of decolonization, recognizing the power it has over all of us, and working together to push back against the ongoing effects it continues to have. It's easy to get distracted and point fingers at each other over our individual differences, but it's that distraction that allows those in power to continue getting away with their misdeeds. Without the Master Emerald, Angel Island is left to plummet into the ocean with everyone on it, stripped not only of its one source of power, but the only known relic of Knuckles' tribe and culture. And Robotnik is more than willing to do all this, purely to aid in his conquest, to expand his Badnik army and dominate more of planet Mobius. It's this self-centered, greedy nature that winds up being his downfall, though. He's defeated and driven away from Angel Island, the Emerald returned to its rightful owner, ideally. When the two sides Robotnik has attempted to turn against each other to distract them from his misdeeds, realize his plans, and come together to defeat him. I ought to wrap this up, but I guess the point of all of this is, don't go down without a fight. I'm not going to pretend I know things are going to be okay, but if we work together, and we stay productive, in the end, I think they just might be.